Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Ahlan wa sahlan wa marhaban bikum, and welcome to another edition of Debunked here on INX Prime. In recent weeks, we focused quite a bit on what's happening in the Middle East, in Iran. Well, Trump has extended the ceasefire unilaterally, right, from his own side. He said that Pakistan has requested him. Many are saying that he is trying to see what options he has, weigh up his options, and give the Iranians some opportunity to weigh up their options. It's better than attacks, but at the same time, we're far from over. Many are talking about a frozen conflict, but we've covered that in recent weeks. We spoke also about the latest coming out of Palestine. Not too long ago, the DA had its Congress. One of the weeks recently, we unpacked that, the Democratic Party Alliance and where it stands and what are its prospects. Well, today, we focus on what is, I think, officially now the fourth largest party in South Africa. At one stage, it was the third largest. One of the most vocal in terms of its leader. Very strong brand. We know the history. Started off in the ANC, got expelled, started his own party. Zuma must fall, disruptions at parliament. Then did quite well in the first time they contested elections back in 2014, if I remember. But of late, it has been more legal. He's been in court. He's been found guilty. He's been sentenced. Obviously, he's taking it on appeal. It could take years. But people are starting to ask the question, what's the impact on the brand? What's the impact on the structures of the party? His right-hand man, Floyd Shivambu, left him not too long ago. Is there an heir apparent? If down the line, despite going the same route as Zuma with Stalingrad legal tactics, if he has to face jail time, then who's a likely successor? At the same time, there's a debate. If you looked at the weekend newspapers, some political commentators were of the opinion that he's being politically persecuted and that people have received lighter sentences for far worse. And this is being politically influenced. So these are some of the talking points that we are going to be unpacking today with well-known analyst, Professor Andre Duvenage from the University of the Northwest. Prof, a good day to you and welcome to Debunked here on INX Prime.
Good afternoon. Nice talking again.
Let's start with the court ruling, right? Is there merit in a 5-year sentence, which the judge had meted out on him? I'm sure you're aware of the commentary of those who feel it's too harsh, and then they start asking the question whether it's being politically motivated or at least influenced by politics.
To start from the beginning, I am 100% sure that there is no direct political influence. This was a purely judicial statement and verdict. But living in a politically orientated society, we would like to make politics of it. And there's no doubt that the EFF did try to make politics from this court case from the beginning. Stepping around with the face of the magistrate on a doodskis and take her through the system there, showing their power. And directly after the verdict, we have clearly seen that there were strong views coming from Julius Malema, focusing specifically on Londoros Olivier in person, telling her that she was not objective, she was politically in her orientation, she's racially orientated. And the result of that is that an attorney from Johannesburg has filed other complaints against Mr. Julius Malema, making it for him even more difficult. So I believe the sentence was a correct one. Some may argue that it should have been 2 years. Others say we can take it up to as long as 12 or 15 years, but there is the right to appeal. So appeal process can be started, and it already happened. But now the problem with that process is that it can take literally years. And we know that Mr. Julius Malema will definitely follow the same lines Zuma followed since about 2002, and what we refer to as the Stalingrad strategy.
Now, the fact that the charges were brought by AfriForum, is that also a reason why this has become so racially charged? It's seen as those who represent old white minority interests versus those who want to see progression and economic emancipation for blacks. Is that why it's playing out in the media, especially on social media, in such a racial manner?
No doubt that the levels of racial polarization at the moment is some of the highest I have seen since 1994. And there's no doubt that only the fact that AfriForum was promoting this case is promoting racial tension. But I think there's a bigger context we need to understand. And the reason AfriForum is taking these steps has to do with our criminal justice system. Our criminal justice system is completely falling apart or is completely inactive. We have seen so many cases where there was really no action. It is easier to just remove or not acting on a specific case. Take, for example, the big commissions of inquiry. Looking back in history, the findings of the Sereti Commission about the arms deal, what happened with the Morane Commission with regard to political assassinations, but the biggest one, the Zondo Commission, implicating many people of a senior political and or other status in terms of state capture. Looking at what is at the moment going on with the Mashlanga Commission, the ad hoc committee. And if you look at the history since 1994, probably you will find 5 to 10, maybe a few more people that were arrested during that whole period, despite the fact that we have serious misconduct. And many people are feeling that the problem is primarily lying with the National Prosecution Authority. They are not prosecuting. Therefore, AfriForum established their own private institution to prosecute. And that was one of the outcomes. We can ask the question, if there's merit in this case, which I clearly believe is the case, then why didn't the NPA react to this in a proper manner? And there are 100 other cases I can put into the same context.
I suppose AfriForum's challenge is that whilst the cases they pursue may have merit, this one and the more recent one with regards to Fikile Mbalula, it does perpetuate the notion that they seemingly are only going after people of color, black people, because there are those who would argue that there are also white people in South Africa who are accused of wrongdoing, and they don't seem to be seen pursuing them.
Well, at the moment, I think they are prioritizing their cases, and they are taking the highest level, most important cases where they can clearly see there is no National Prosecution Authority action. And their focus point is primarily senior politicians. And if we just look at the proportion of the population that is white, we are talking at the moment about 8%. So 8 out of every 100 people are white. So the focus couldn't be on a 50-50 basis as far as this is concerned. And then secondly, we need to take into consideration that the ANC, which is in government for such a long time, is disproportionately a black and non-white institution, but predominantly a black one. So looking at the political environment, you are facing the numbers coming from the black grouping. Just interesting sake is the fact that there are currently more illegal immigrants in South Africa than there are white people in South Africa.
The Stalingrad tactic that you spoke about earlier on, right? Some would perhaps use the rugby terminology and say, right, this has now been kicked into touch in that Malema has taken it on to appeal and it can take years. Does this now affect, in your opinion, his standing politically? Has it damaged his profile amongst his supporters and likely supporters? Of course, the likes of those who would support AfriForum or Freedom Front Plus or even, say, perhaps the DA for the matter, were never going to support Malema. But in terms of his current supporters and prospective supporters, does it hurt him?
I think if he is hurt by this process, it is in a very limited sense. My take on it is that if I'm doing a strategic analysis of the EFF, there are more important factors that are impacting on their support base at the moment than the most current court case and the outcome of the court case. However, the court case can and may have a major impact on his career on a midterm, let's say a few years from here. That may be the case. But the bigger factors at the moment influencing the EFF is, in the first place, the leadership of Julius Malema and the fact that there was a lot of conflict among the political elites. You earlier refer to Floyd Shivambu, but with Floyd Shivambu, a number of other senior people left the EFF. So there's definitely a leadership gap at the moment. Secondly, we know that the structures of the EFF is not very strongly consolidated. I don't know about any electoral process that was a strongly defined process that didn't end in some sort of conflict. Now you can ask the question, if you can get that percentage, why do you want structures? But at some point, structures are becoming important. And specifically, when it comes to the local government level, you need a high level of organization of structures. Thirdly, it is clear that there are competitors for the political market of the EFF. And the biggest one at the moment is the MK Party. And what is clear to me is that the MK Party is gaining a lot of momentum at the expense of the ANC, but also, in a certain extent, with regard to the EFF. Because the MK Party is driven by a form of Zulu nationalism, and as the biggest ethnic group in South Africa, it must have an impact on the EFF as well. Then another factor that is very important, a strong element of the support base of the EFF is in the urban areas and in the metropoles. And the highest level of political apathy is found among the youth. And this is impacting negatively. Therefore, I believe that the EFF support is going to be down. I am picturing more around 8% than 10% at the moment. But the impact of the court case itself is limited. In fact, I believe that Malema can turn this around to his advantage by using the argument you put forward earlier. And that is an argument that this is a racially driven process. And we need to fight the enemy, and the enemy is white, and the enemy is the capitalists, and so on. We have seen the post-court process playing itself out. We have also seen Malema mobilizing support in other areas of South Africa. So generally speaking, a decline, but the impact of the court case, a limited one.
What are his options within the party? in terms of strengthening the hierarchy, in terms of preparing an heir in the event that even if it's sometime down the line, he has to see the inside of a prison cell. There are those who say that Godrej Gardi is loyal to him, but he's got his own career in the legal fraternity. He doesn't have the charisma. He doesn't have that much of political experience. The intelligentsia of the EFF was always perceived to have been Shivambu and Ndlozi, and both of them are gone. Who does Malema turn to now in terms of ensuring that he can strengthen the party? Firstly, I suppose, going into a local government elections, and then the cycle taking you into a national election and beyond, in terms of now the dynamics you've spoken about. They've got a new threat that has emerged in recent years, which is the MK. They've had internal turmoil, and now they've got this legal situation to deal with.
I think if you look at the EFF, and that is in the most cases the situation with populist-driven parties, you are getting a single leader, a bit of a cult figure that is so prominent that he dominates the political scene and become, in a way, irreplaceable. And unfortunately, I am seeing Julius Malema within that context. It will also be very, very interesting to see what will happen to the MK party after, let's say, Jacob Zuma his position come to an end one way or another. And the interesting thing is you can get a survivor to take the party forward. We have seen that with the IFP after Mangosuthu Buthelezi. And in fact, the IFP performed better. So it is possible. But in the case of the EFF, I believe it is highly unlikely. It would have been easy for a Floyd Shivambu or an Ndlozi to take over. But due to their aspirations, they were sidelined, marginalized, and at the end of the day, they have left the party. And I think at the moment, there are no automatic successor. Therefore, the strategy, I think, will be twofold when it comes to the EFF and its leadership. On the one line, following the Stalingrad strategy, buying time, undermining legal processes, get extension, mobilize politically, and so on. That will be the one line. The other line, and it's interesting, there are huge dynamics and reconfigurations in South African politics at the moment. The ANC is in severe trouble at the moment. And I can see it playing itself out among many local structures. I had at least 2 interviews today, completely different structures, the same problem. Their support is dropping to the level where they need a close line that can take them forward. And we have seen what Panjasa Lesufi did in Gauteng. He aligned with the EFF. And what we also are waiting for is what will the dynamics be in the ANC? Is the Mashatile lines, who are closer to the EFF and even the MK party, are they going to take over the ANC? Will it be a more moderate Fikile Mbalula type of line? Maybe Patrice Motsepe, his name is mentioned in certain circles, or whoever, the Ramagopas, and so on. That is the other alternative. And if it is the Mashatiles, and you can get an alignment going on between the ANC, the MK party, who is also in this game, I understand there's an agreement between the EFF and the MK, together with the EFF. You have these 3 main parties. I think it is possible to achieve a majority of 50% plus 1 in the 2029 elections on a national level. And I believe, therefore, that Malema will strategically position himself within that environment. And I'm already picking that up. And the outcome of this may be the same as what happened to Jacob Zuma after he won Polokwane. They just throw away all the cases and give him a clean sheet to continue. And because all these leaders within the category I'm referring to, Paul Mashatile himself, Jacob Zuma, some of the other members of MK leadership within the EFF, think about the VBS bank scandal and so on. All of them has serious complaints against them in terms of corruption, nepotism. It will be a bit of a coalition of the corrupt. And then they can take over and control the process. So I'm reading a bigger political strategy already at the moment.
So finally then, Prof, Malema the individual, I saw one piece by an analyst, I think over the weekend, that for the first time now, he's actually having to deal with consequences of his actions. It may have taken a long time. This court case, I think, took the better part of 7 years. And it could still go for a good couple of years in terms of the appeals and the like. But at this stage, at least, there is a sentence. He's been found guilty. What kind of impact do you see this having on his psyche?
Well, I understand, and that is only on an informational level, that Mr. Malema has a number of health challenges. And this is visible if you just look at him in some ways. I cannot see that 2026 is going to be an easy year for Mr. Malema. I think it's going to be an extremely challenging year. And it also has to do with his party, the reorganization of the party, the financial component, taking into consideration that your local election dealing with 257 municipalities is by far the biggest election, putting the biggest stress on any political party. This is going to be challenging. And if I am correctly, and I'm not following all the legal processes, but there are also other cases against Julius Malema. This is not the only case. So I think he is in a very difficult environment. He's definitely not at the best point in his political career. And therefore, I believe that he may go for an option. Let's say there's some sort of an agreement. Paul Mashatile won the ANC election, and he offered him the position of a deputy president, making the EFF part of the ANC, which will be a very popular decision left of center. Then he can survive in some way. Fighting on his own, I cannot see the EFF getting more than 10% easily. So I think it is difficult times. I think the finances are running out. The structures are not working. The intelligentsia within the party are on the outside now, and his health is not well. So all in all put together, this is a difficult scenario.
Prof, as always, thank you for your time and for chatting to us. We really do appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Have a great day and go well.
So, thank you.
That was political analyst at the University of the Northwest, Professor Andre Duvanaga, talking to us today about the impact of the recent legal case against Malema. It's on appeal, we know, but for the first time, like I was saying, he's got a judgment against him, and there has been consequence to some extent. What does that have? What kind of impact will that have on his political psyche? Where is the party now? You know, with key individuals outside the structures of the party who played a very influential role in the lead up to the last elections and previous elections, who are not here now in the lead up to this upcoming local government elections. Where does it leave the political prospects and the electoral prospects of the party? Does it impact? How does it impact the whole racial undertone to what's happening, because the charges were brought by AfriForum, and how Malema can, in Prof's view, actually turn this to his advantage, you know, play the race card, that it's the white man against the black man, the whites who are trying to protect white minority interests against those blacks who want to see a greater economic prosperity for the black majority. So yeah, we've spoken about the DA in recent weeks, we've spoken about the EFF, and we'll continue the coverage on what's happening locally. In between, we've also had programs focusing on what's happening in Iran, Palestine, and other parts of the world. Until next week, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.